So I've been playing Ehrgeiz. Fighting games are one of those things I've been trying to steer away from ever since I started taking this review shindig seriously. Reason being is that I figured that if I were to cover one such game, at least some mechanical, in-depth balancing, mumbo-jumbo competitive knowledge was needed. And as someone who's played lots and lots of fighting games alone, not with friends or at arcades, that's something I simply did not have, so I dropped fighters altogether. Or that is until someone asked me to review Shaolin a handful of months ago, which I deemed as a neat way to test the fighting game waters among my own audience. And guys, after years and years of extensive research, I think I may have found a way to do this. I'm going to cover the fighting games that were so stupid, so flawed, or so very out there that no one would really care either way. And the absolute poster child of shitty forgotten fighters, and also one of my personal faves, just so happens to be when polygonal 3D fighters rolled around the corner during the mid-90s, ready to scar children with high-quality FMV, one of the first genres to fully utilize this were fighting games. Starting with the Sega Saturn classic Virtua Fighter, directed and designed by the legendary Seiichi Ishii, the man who went from making the first ever 3D fighter to then move to Namco to not only design and produce Tekken 1, but Tekken motherfucking 2 as well. Usually, one would only go up from there, but Seiichi then moved companies again to form his own studio in partnership with Squaresoft, where he eventually made Tobal No. 1, a game only known for carrying the demo of Final Fantasy VII with its US release, and yeah. As expected, it wasn't exactly great. Ambitious, sure, and it utilized the 3D aspect more than any other fighter at the time, but to really get a feel for just how shitty this game is, one has to actually play it. It's a Tobal 1 mini review within a review, yeah. That was really dumb. Well, this is, silent. Even stranger is how after having picked a character on the equally silent character select screen, the game then seamlessly transitions into battle. Weird essentially being this game's tagline, as for one, it's completely textureless, for two, the character designs are very Akira Toriyama, and for three, the logo also reminds me of something. I wonder what it could be. Being scraped together from Toriyama's garbage bin aside, the fighting is actually really fucking shitty. Unsurprisingly, as it's made by the same team behind The Bouncer. It also plays literally exactly the same. If you don't know what that means, which I hope for you is the case, it means that X is for low attacks, square for middle, triangle for high, and circle does circle. And one is able to use these to slowly fiddle your way through what I think are supposed to be combos and jump and block using the shoulder buttons. It's all a little bit strange to say the least, though it's more fitting here than it was in The Bouncer, as I said, if anything, it felt more like something out of a 2D fighter. Though, having said that, I didn't quite realize how slow such a fighter would be, which is exemplified by the almost shockingly high frame rate. My guess is that this is due to the game's texturelessness, but this is easily the best performing PS1 game I have ever seen, and it's also preposterously crisp. Looking at the trifecta of early polygonal fighters though, being Tekken, Virtua Fighter, and this, Tobal 1 is easily the worst. Which says a lot considering the other two hold up about as well as the casual blackfacing seen in old 1940s cartoons. Though it does have an RPG mode. Don't play the RPG mode. With Seiichi Ishii as its main designer, taking ideas from Tobal 1 and polishing them up quite substantially. Tatsuya Nomura doing the character designs and Square sanctioning various characters from Final Fantasy VII, which was the hip new thing at the time, all accumulating into a dark plot rife with occultism. Surely nothing could go wrong. Okay, well, maybe it did a little bit. but it does improve on almost every aspect. The controls are still pretty much the same, but circle does not just do circle, as now each character has a type of special attack executed with said button. This dude called Han, for instance, has a rocket leg, Cloud has the Buster Sword, Yoko has a yo-yo, and also Furry Girl. This might sound a bit weird, but if you've ever played a WWE game before, it kind of plays like one of those, oddly enough. Which is mostly noticeable in the fact that all movement is now fully 3D. No invisible lines drawn between you and your opponent, and the stages are also super dynamic. There's some platforms you can jump on, fences you can break, walls you can boost from, and a few other neat little contextual things like that. And yeah, in all forms of professional play, this would probably only hinder people, as that's kind of what it's doing to me when playing casually as well. But it is kind of cool in a way. There's just an innocent type of joy to be found in running away and jumping around like some kind of asshole. Plus, it's also actually fast now, which already makes it a lot more playable than Tobal ever was. Though, because of the button layout, the combos are still somewhat limited. This might make the game a lot more accessible, but it can also result in things getting rather stale quite fast. The only dynamic it really has going for it, besides the stages themselves, is that your position as opposed to your opponent can dictate what certain moves will end up doing, but sadly, that's about as precise as a brain surgeon with Parkinson's disease. Because of the control scheme, all fighters play very similarly. It has 18 warriors to choose from, sure, but only 3 or so templates, if you will. One being based around fluid combos and projectiles, another based around grapples and strange gimmicks, and the last is based around weaponry. Weaponry? This means that Tifa, Han, and Dozop all do the same sort of moves or shoot something, and that Cloud, Zack, and Sephiroth are all pretty much the same character as well. The only one standing out from this is a chick called Jo, who can turn into an animal thingy that's more or less a character on its own, but even that isn't worth much. It is worth noting that the game controls very fucking well when it works. I mean, the animations, the physics, and the frame rate are really quite excellent, and there's a rather nice sense of fluidity to your combos, and it's also one of the few PS1 games that actually utilizes the analog sticks properly, which certainly makes the 3D movement a lot less hellish. Though, I do have to admit that some of the stages aren't really made with the controls in mind. Look at this, for instance. It's literally a set of fucking stairs. Not to mention seemingly innocent stuff like the train level that's way too small of a platform for any projectile-based combat, nor does it mix well at all with the rather fast running speed. And all of this becomes an even bigger problem when you consider that certain moves have their own preset direction. Like, you can have a type of kick that'll always thrust towards your opponent regardless of where you were going, or a dash of some description that'll lock you in the direction you were running in that you may just very well have decided to change, leading to you occasionally losing control and or fighting the air for just a few seconds. So, while it isn't necessarily the worst fighter out there by any means, as I said, it does feel pretty good to play when the controls actually work, it still would have been much better off having been stuck in 2D. What made this game a lot of fun for me as a kid, and still pretty okay good today as well, is the absolute wealth of single-player content. Besides there being plenty of unlockable characters, some also from Final Fantasy VII, alternate costumes, and even some branching pathways in the arcade mode, it also has some mini-games. There's Infinity Battle, which is as advertised on the tin and therefore completely pointless. Battle Runner, which is a race that sucks fucking cuck because of the soft lock-on, making it impossible for you to direct your character and with the AI being too occupied with trying to fight you still. And Beach Battle, which contains a variety of beach minigames. These play moderately well due to them utilizing their own control scheme and are generally almost fun. And last but not least, Battle Panel, which... And of course, it also has an RPG mode. The quest mode as the game calls it, is like legitimately a big deal. I mean, look at the fucking Wikipedia page and see how much bigger the quest mode section is than that of the main game. But yeah, I'm actually a little bit torn as to how I feel about this. On one hand, it has all of the right elements for a good JRPG. There's a town with shops, plenty of dungeon exploring, a large variety of weapons, equipment, and even some fucking materia. But then, it also uses Ehrgeiz, its control scheme. But I suppose it was fun for the whopping 1 whole hour what I spent with it. So take that for what you will. This game is pretty decent. It has a Sephiroth Beach Boy simulator, the most PS1-ass music and FMV ever, Resident Evil elevators, and the fucking Dark Lord Cthulhu himself at the bottom of a well. I just can't help but kinda love this game for what it is. And considering it contains what I just listed, I'm honestly quite surprised it's not remembered very well at all. I mean, its tagline is "God bless the ring," so fuck off. I don't care who you are, that shit is awesome. And it's also pretty cute how the arcade mode tells a bit of a story through its victory screens and environments. You play as someone out to get the sword called Ehrgeiz, and as such, you see them go on a journey across the world to reach an ancient temple where the wicked beast awaits. For a game that's poorly taped and stapled together from bits of Final Fantasy VII, Tobal 1, some wrestling games, and Tekken 3, I mean Han is literally Horang with a robot leg and God Hand is just Kazuya with a gun. He even has the same last name. It's pretty okay good. While I don't see it lasting for more than a few hours, it might be worth a cheeky emulate. Even if it is just to get a peek at Tifa's bouncing chest beefers. Or to see the legendary Vincent Valentine back in action.
Wow!